The sun hung bright and warm over the small town of Riverbend, yet something felt strangely heavy in the air that afternoon. At the far end of Maple Street, where tall oaks lined the sidewalks and the hum of passing cars blended with the distant sound of birds, an unexpected scene unfolded, a group of 6 rugged bikers rolling slowly toward the gas station on their roaring motorcycles. They were hard, imposing figures dressed in denim and leather, their engines vibrating the ground beneath them, and then, suddenly, like a moment ripped straight out of a movie, a little boy sprinted out from behind the convenience store. He was maybe 7 years old, a small black boy with wide, terrified eyes, scraped knees, and breathless sobs shaking through his body as he ran directly toward the bikers. Before they even had time to react, he reached the closest rider, grabbed onto his vest with trembling hands, and cried out in a panicked, breaking voice, "Please follow me home, please, please hurry." The desperation in his voice was so raw, so urgent, it cut straight through every one of them. If this powerful beginning moved you even a little, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales, because together we keep stories of compassion and second chances alive. The child's name was Malik Carter, though the bikers didn't know that yet. All they saw was fear, honest, unfiltered fear. The leader of the group, a tall, heavily tattooed man named Ryder Hale, knelt down and gently placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. Despite his tough exterior, his eyes softened with concern. Malik struggled to steady his breathing, but the words tumbled out between gasps. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong at his home. Ryder didn't ask more questions. Neither did the others, Grayson, Theo, Moose, Arlo, and Sykes. They could read the truth in Malik's shaking voice and the urgency in his young steps. With a single nod from Ryder, the engines roared back to life. Malik climbed onto the back of Ryder's bike, gripping tightly as the group sped off, following Malik's pointing hand through quiet streets and sunlit residential lanes that seemed too peaceful to hold anything dangerous. Malik guided them to a small, worn-down house at the edge of town, a single-story home with peeling paint, a broken fence, and an overgrown yard. But what struck the bikers wasn't the house's condition, it was the silence. Not the normal quiet of a sleepy neighborhood, but a haunting stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Malik jumped off the bike before it even fully stopped and sprinted toward the front door, yelling, "Mom! Mom!" The bikers exchanged looks. This was no prank. This was real. When they rushed inside, the air was heavy and cold despite the afternoon heat. The curtains were drawn tight, blocking out the sun, and the dim living room smelled of worry, stale air, unopened windows, and fear. There, lying on the worn carpet, was a woman in her late 30s. She was conscious but extremely weak, struggling to keep her eyes open. Malik dropped to his knees beside her, shaking uncontrollably. "Mom, I brought help. I brought help." Ryder quickly evaluated the scene. The woman, Tiana Carter, was dehydrated, dizzy, pale, and barely able to speak. Malik explained that she'd collapsed earlier, but he couldn't call anyone because their electricity had been shut off weeks ago. Their phone was dead. No car. No neighbor's home. And Malik had panicked. He ran. He ran as fast as he could until he found the first adults who looked strong enough to help, and fate had delivered him to the bikers. Ryder's voice was firm but gentle as he barked out instructions. Moose fetched water. Theo called emergency services using his cell. Arlo opened the windows to let in fresh air. Grayson lifted Tiana carefully, checking her pulse. Sykes gathered every blanket, pillow, and soft thing he could find. They worked together not like bikers, but like guardians. Malik held his mother's hand tightly as tears streamed down his small face. "I didn't know what to do. I didn't know," he whispered, his voice breaking, guilt clinging to every word. Ryder knelt beside him, wiping the tears from his cheeks with a thumb surprisingly gentle for a man of his size. "You did everything right," Ryder said softly. "You saved your mama. You hear me? You saved her." Malik nodded, but he kept crying, silent sobs of fear, relief, and exhaustion. When the ambulance arrived 15 minutes later, paramedics rushed in and took over. Tiana was transported to the hospital, with Malik riding beside her in the back. The bikers followed behind on their motorcycles like a protective shield. At the hospital, they waited in the lobby, refusing to leave until they knew she was okay. Hours passed. The waiting room was filled with cold chairs, humming lights, and the steady beep of distant monitors. Malik curled up in Ryder's lap, exhausted from crying. The bikers exchanged small conversations, sharing pieces of their pasts and how they'd each known fear and struggle in their own lives. They weren't strangers to hardship. They recognized it in Malik and his mother. Finally, the doctor appeared with good news. Tiana would recover. Severe exhaustion, dehydration, untreated stress, and malnutrition had caused her collapse. Life had been hitting her from every direction: job loss, rising bills, single motherhood, and no one to rely on. Malik, only 7, had been trying to help, but children can only carry so much. When Tiana woke later that evening, she found all 7 bikers standing at the foot of her hospital bed like a row of unlikely angels. Malik ran to her and hugged her tightly. Through blurry eyes and a trembling voice, she whispered, "Thank you, all of you." Ryder cleared his throat awkwardly, unused to emotional moments. "You're not alone anymore, Tiana. Not while we're around." Over the next few days, they proved it. They repaired the broken fence, fixed the steps, cleaned the entire house, stocked the pantry, paid the overdue bills, got the electricity restored. One biker contacted a community center to help Tiana secure job assistance. Another arranged transportation for her medical follow-ups. As the days went on, neighbors began noticing the big motorcycles parked outside the small house on Oak Ridge Lane. At first, people were confused, even judgmental. But soon they learned the truth. The bikers weren't trouble. They were saviors. The bond between Malik and the bikers grew deeper. Ryder taught him how to fix a bicycle chain. Moose showed him how to plant a small vegetable patch in the backyard. Arlo brought him a used tablet for school. Theo helped him with homework. The bikers, men who had lived stories of broken homes, streets, regrets, and redemption, found healing in helping Malik. He found safety. Weeks later, Tiana hosted a small cookout to thank them. The backyard, once silent and neglected, now echoed with laughter. Malik wore a new yellow t-shirt Ryder had bought him. Tiana, healthier and smiling for the first time in a long time, hugged each biker one by one, tears forming but never falling. She whispered to Ryder, "I don't know how I'll ever repay you." Ryder stepped back, shaking his head. "You already did." "How?" "You raised a boy brave enough to run for help. That's everything." As the late afternoon sun painted the sky with soft golden hues, Malik climbed onto Ryder's bike, just sitting, not riding, grinning as he pretended to steer. The bikers watched him, their faces warmed by a mix of pride, love, and memories of their own childhoods. The story could have ended there, but something deeper lingered, something bigger than a rescue. Malik found 6 new father figures. Tiana found a family she never expected. The bikers found purpose where they least expected it, and the entire town of Riverbend learned a truth that echoed long after: sometimes, angels wear leather and ride steel.